No cure for the common cold. City medicine versus mountain wisdom. The conversation in the Clampett living room turns on a single devastating admission. Miss Jane Hathaway, speaking with the careful precision that Nancy Culp brought to every professional explanation, informs Granny that the common cold remains beyond the reach of modern medicine. Well, there is no known cure for the common cold, she says. The words land with the quiet finality of an official verdict. In the mid-1960s, American medicine stood at the height of its cultural prestige. Antibiotics had conquered infections that once killed by the thousands. The polio vaccine had transformed a seasonal terror into a fading memory. Hospitals glittered with new technology, and physicians in white coats occupied a position of near-priestly authority in the public imagination. Yet against the humble rhinovirus, all of that accumulated knowledge and institutional power could offer only the same counsel that grandmothers had given for generations: rest, fluids, and time. Granny's response is instantaneous and absolute. You mean to tell me the city doctors ain't got no cure for a cold? The question is not rhetorical. It is the genuine astonishment of a woman whose entire life has been organized around the conviction that every affliction possesses a remedy if one only knows where to look. Irene Ryan delivers the line with a mixture of disbelief and indignation that is pure mountain logic. In her world, the failure to cure a cold is not an acceptable limitation of science, it is a professional dereliction. The very idea that the most advanced medical establishment on earth would confess helplessness before so ordinary a complaint strikes her as both ridiculous and faintly scandalous. Miss Jane attempts to soften the admission with the careful language of institutional medicine. Well, they can alleviate the symptoms, but no one has a cure. The distinction is important to the professional mind. To alleviate is to manage to reduce discomfort to support the body's own defenses, while the illness runs its natural course. To cure is to eradicate, to interrupt the process at its root, to claim a permanent victory. City medicine, for all its triumphs, has never achieved the second goal with the common cold. The virus mutates too readily, the symptoms are too mild to justify aggressive intervention, and the illness resolves itself in any case within a week or 10 days. From the standpoint of laboratory science, the absence of a cure is not a failure but a recognition of biological reality. Granny will have none of it. Her reply is the turning point of the entire sequence. Well, Granny has. She's been making it long as I remember a cold cure. 1 spoonful is all it takes. The claim is offered without fanfare, as though the existence of the remedy were as obvious as the existence of the sun. Jed Clampett, standing nearby with the quiet authority that Buddy Ebsen made the moral center of the series, supplies the confirming detail that elevates the statement from personal assertion to family law. The greatest research scientists and doctors in the world may have been working on the problem, but Granny solved it 45 years earlier, and the solution has never failed. The contrast between the two systems of knowledge could not be drawn more sharply. On one side stands the vast apparatus of modern medicine: universities, laboratories, peer-reviewed journals, government agencies, pharmaceutical companies confessing its limits. On the other side stands a single elderly woman from the Ozarks, armed with a recipe recorded in an agricultural gazette and tested through decades of practical use. The comedy arises from the incongruity, yet the deeper satisfaction arises from the series' refusal to treat either side as wholly ridiculous. City medicine is not mocked for its honesty, mountain medicine is not dismissed for its lack of credentials. Both are allowed to present their claims, and the audience is invited to enjoy the collision without being forced to declare a permanent victor. The scene that follows, in which Mr. Drysdale visits the office of the sophisticated Dr. Roy Clyburn, deepens the contrast with exquisite precision. Drysdale arrives expecting the full arsenal of modern intervention. He wants a shot penicillin, preferably something decisive and scientific that will banish the illness at once. Dr. Clyburn, played with the weary professionalism of a man who has explained the same facts to impatient patients for years, offers instead the same counsel Miss Jane has already given. I'm going to recommend that you eat sensibly, drink lots of fluids, get plenty of rest, and in a week or 10 days you'll be all right. The advice is sound, humane, and utterly unsatisfying to a man accustomed to purchasing solutions. Drysdale's protest is immediate. Aren't you going to give me a shot of something? When the doctor mildly suggests brandy, the banker's indignation boils over. What kind of a doctor are you? The answer, I am a busy one, is both comic and quietly devastating. In the economy of the urban professional, time is the scarcest resource, and a patient who demands heroic measures for a self-limiting illness is simply taking up space that could be given to more serious cases. The exchange crystallizes the central tension of the sequence. City medicine, for all its sophistication, has become a system of managed expectations. It can perform miracles when the pathology is clear and the intervention is decisive, yet it remains helpless before the ordinary miseries of daily life. The common cold is too trivial to command the full attention of the research establishment and too stubborn to yield to the tools already available. The result is a kind of professional resignation that Drysdale experiences as personal neglect. He has paid his $10, he has taken his place in the waiting room, and he has received nothing he could not have told himself. The frustration is real, and the series allows it its full comic weight without ever suggesting that Dr. Clyburn is incompetent. The doctor is simply honest about the limits of his art. Granny's response to the same limits is the opposite of resignation. Where city medicine acknowledges boundaries, mountain medicine refuses to accept them. The cold is an affliction, therefore it must possess a cure, therefore the cure must be found and administered. The logic is circular only if one accepts the premise that some problems are inherently insoluble. Granny does not accept that premise. Her entire practice is organized around the conviction that suffering exists to be relieved, and that the healer's duty is to keep searching until relief is found. The fact that her search ended 45 years earlier with a recipe published in the Razorback Hog Breeders' Gazette does not diminish the seriousness of the search. It simply means that the solution has been available all along for anyone willing to consult the proper sources. The historical context of this philosophical difference is worth lingering over. The 1960s marked the high watermark of American faith in scientific expertise. The space program was racing toward the moon. Federal funding for medical research was expanding at an unprecedented rate. The public had been taught to regard the laboratory as the primary source of progress and the credentialed professional as the primary guardian of health. Against this background, Granny's calm confidence in a folk remedy functions as a gentle act of cultural counterpoint. The series does not argue that mountain medicine should replace city medicine. It simply insists that the older system of knowledge retains a dignity and a practical utility that the newer system ignores at its peril. When Dr. Clyburn can offer only rest and fluids, and Granny can offer a spoonful of something that ain't failed in 45 years. The audience is invited to consider the possibility that both statements contain a measure of truth. Buddy Ebsen's Jed serves as the quiet mediator between these two worlds. He never dismisses Miss Jane's explanation of medical limitations, nor does he undercut Granny's confidence in her cure. He simply absorbs both claims and begins the practical work of bringing them into conversation. When he promises to take the matter up with Mr. Drysdale, the line carries the weight of a man who has learned to translate between languages that do not share a common vocabulary. His presence prevents the contrast from hardening into simple opposition. City medicine and mountain wisdom are not enemies in his view. They are neighboring territories whose borders remain open to travelers of goodwill. The physical comedy of Drysdale's visit to Dr. Clyburn's office sharpens the thematic contrast still further. The banker's impatience, his demand for a decisive intervention, his indignation at being offered brandy instead of penicillin, all of these elements are staged with the precision of classic situation comedy. Yet beneath the laughter lies a serious observation about the relationship between patients and physicians in an age of rising expectations. Drysdale has been taught to believe that every problem possesses a technical solution that can be purchased and administered. When that belief collides with the reality of a self-limiting illness, the result is a comic explosion that reveals more about the patient than about the doctor. Dr. Clyburn's weary professionalism is not indifference. It is the hard-won realism of a man who has learned that some battles cannot be won by force of will or force of pharmacology. Granny's approach to the same problem is animated by an entirely different spirit. Where the city doctor manages expectations, the mountain healer multiplies possibilities. The cold is not a biological inevitability to be endured, it is a challenge to be met with the full resources of memory observation and traditional knowledge. The fact that those resources include a recipe first published in an agricultural gazette does not render them less serious in her eyes. Knowledge is knowledge, regardless of the binding in which it appears. The series allows this conviction to stand without apology, and in doing so it offers a quiet corrective to the growing prestige of formal expertise. As the sequence moves toward its close, the stage is set for the larger conflicts that will occupy the subsequent parts of the narrative. Granny's determination to share her cure, her eventual confrontation with Dr. Clyburn, her decision to open a competing office in the Commercebank building, all of these developments grow organically from the simple admission that city medicine has no answer for the common cold. The brilliance of the writing lies in its refusal to treat that admission as a punchline and nothing more. The absence of a cure becomes the occasion for a sustained exploration of two different ways of understanding illness, expertise, and the human obligation to relieve suffering. In the end, the contrast between city medicine and mountain wisdom is not resolved in favor of either side. It is allowed to remain a living tension, a source of both comedy and reflection. Dr. Clyburn is not a villain, he is a competent professional working within the honest limits of his science. Granny is not a quack, she is a healer whose confidence rests on decades of practical success. Between them stands the common cold and ordinary misery that continues to humble the sophisticated and the traditional alike. The Beverly Hillbillies meets that humility with laughter, with affection, and with the stubborn insistence that the search for relief is itself a form of wisdom worth celebrating. In the living room of the Clampett mansion and in the office of the city doctor, the series finds the same essential truth: human beings will always seek to ease one another's pain. And the methods they choose will always reveal more about their values than about the illness itself.